The storm over the Yellow Sea was the worst anyone had seen in 20 years. Rain hammered down like bullets, and waves rose higher than buildings. Through the chaos, something fell from the sky. It wasn't lightning or a meteor. It was a ship, burning and breaking apart as it crashed into the dark waters. Captain Daehyun grabbed the radio in his Coast Guard vessel. His hands were steady even as his ship rocked violently. "All units, we have an unidentified object in the water. Moving to investigate?" His crew looked at him with wide eyes. They had never seen anything like this before. The object was massive, easily the size of 3 cargo ships, and it glowed with strange purple lights beneath the surface. As they approached, Daehyun saw something that made his heart stop. The ship's hull was cracked open and things were floating out. Not things, people, but they weren't human. Their skin was pale blue and silver. They had large eyes that reflected light like a cat's. Their bodies were thin and graceful, with webbed fingers that moved weakly in the water. Many of them weren't moving at all. "Get the rescue nets ready," Daehyun shouted. His crew moved fast. They pulled dozens of the strange beings from the water. Some were breathing. Some weren't. A marine biologist named Hannah was on the ship that day by pure chance. She had been studying whale migrations when the call came. Now she stared at the aliens with amazement and fear. One of the aliens grabbed her arm. Its grip was weak but desperate. The creature's mouth moved, making sounds that seemed like music and whispering mixed together. Hannah couldn't understand, but she knew what the alien was trying to say. "Help us. Please help us." Within hours, the beach was filled with military vehicles and scientists. The Korean government had sealed off the entire area. Soldiers stood guard while doctors tried to save the aliens. But there was a problem. The aliens were dying. They gasped for air like fish out of water, even though they were breathing. Their skin turned darker, and they shook with pain. Hannah worked with a team of scientists through the night. They discovered that Earth's air had too much oxygen for these beings. They needed a different mixture, something closer to what they breathed on their world. Engineers built special tents with controlled atmospheres. Slowly, the aliens stopped dying. Out of the 847 beings they pulled from the sea, 612 survived. Communication was the next challenge. The aliens had technology, even in their broken ship. A small device was recovered, something like a computer, but organic, grown rather than built. A linguist named Jiwoo worked with it for 3 days straight without sleep. Finally, the device began translating. The first voice humans heard from another world belonged to someone named Tilren. He was tall for his species, with markings on his face that indicated age and wisdom. Through the translator, his voice was soft and musical. "We are the Valve," he said. "We are refugees. We meant no intrusion to your world. Our navigation failed. We were running from death and we fell into your sky by accident." Tilren explained their story. The Valve came from a water world far across the galaxy. For generations, they lived in peace. Then the Kreeth Empire found them. The Kreeth were conquerors, brutal and efficient. They didn't want to trade with the Valve or negotiate. They wanted to harvest them. The Valve had biological properties the Kreeth valued. Their organs could extend Kreeth lifespans. Their genetic material had uses in Kreeth medicine. So the Kreeth rounded up the Valve like animals. They put them in farms. They bred them. They killed them. Some Valve escaped and became nomads, running from planet to planet. Tilren's group had been running for 2 generations. They had heard of a sanctuary world, a place where refugees gathered under the protection of a peaceful alliance. They tried to jump there through hyperspace, but their ship was damaged. The coordinates corrupted. They ended up here. "Can you repair your ship?" Daehyun asked. Tilren's large eyes showed sadness. "It will take many of your months. We need materials we do not have. If we had the resources, if we had time, perhaps. But we have neither." The news reached the United Nations within a day. An emergency session was called. Representatives from every nation gathered in New York. The chamber was tense. Some delegates demanded the aliens leave immediately. "They will bring war to our world," shouted the Russian ambassador. "If this Kree Empire follows them here, we will all die." Others were more cautious. The American representative suggested quarantine and study. The Chinese delegate proposed sharing the responsibility among multiple nations. But it was Jiwoo, now representing South Korea, who spoke the words that changed everything. "These beings are refugees," she said simply. "They are parents and children. They are teachers and farmers. They did not invade us. They crashed on our shores because they were running from genocide. And now we debate whether to show them mercy. What does that say about us? What does that say about humanity?" The chamber fell silent. Jiwoo continued. "If we turn them away, we sentence them to death. If we help them, yes, we might face danger. But we will face it knowing we did the right thing. That matters. That has to matter." The vote was not unanimous. But South Korea took responsibility. President Yoon made the announcement from Seoul. The Valve will be given temporary asylum on Jeju Island. We will help them repair their ship. We will give them what time we can. And if anyone comes to harm them while they are under our protection, they will find that humanity does not abandon those in need. That night, Hana stood on the beach where it all began. She watched as transport vehicles carefully moved the Valve to their new temporary home. One of the Valve children waved at her, a gesture surprisingly human. Hana waved back. She didn't know what would come next. None of them did. But they had made their choice. For better or worse, Earth had opened its doors to the stars. 6 weeks passed since the Valve arrived on Jeju Island. The facility built for them was unlike anything on Earth. Massive biodomes covered the eastern coast, filled with carefully controlled atmosphere and artificial seawater pools. Inside, the Valve could breathe freely and move without pain. Outside, human workers and soldiers maintained a constant presence. Hana spent almost every day working with a Valve scientist named Orinth. He was younger than Tilran, with bright markings along his neck that pulsed with different colors when he spoke. Hana learned that these colors were part of Valve communication. Blue meant calm. Green meant curiosity. Red meant danger. Right now, Orinth glowed with soft yellow, which meant gratitude. "Your people have been kind," Orinth said through the translator device. His actual voice sounded like wind chimes. "We did not expect this. Most species in the galaxy turn away from trouble. They see refugees and close their doors. But you opened yours." Hana smiled, but it was a tired smile. "Not everyone is happy about it. There are protests outside the facility every day. Some people are afraid. Others are angry. They think you'll bring war here." Orinth's colors shifted to dark blue, almost purple, sadness. "They are not wrong to fear. The Kreeth are relentless. If they find us, they will come. And they will not care about your world's innocence." Despite the fears, work continued. Teeman, the lead scientist on the project, made breakthrough after breakthrough by studying Valve technology. Their ship might be broken, but its design was incredible. They grew their machines rather than building them. Their computers were alive in a way, able to repair themselves and adapt to new situations. Their energy systems used something Teeman could barely understand, a kind of controlled quantum reaction that produced no waste. "This is centuries beyond us," Teeman told his team. "Maybe thousands of years. If we could understand even a fraction of this, we could solve climate change, energy crises, everything." But not everyone was focused on technology. A young engineer named Suji found herself drawn to the Valve children. There were 43 children among the refugees, ranging from infants to teenagers by human standards. They were kept in a special section of the facility with teachers and caregivers. Suji volunteered there in her free time. One child, named Prail, became especially attached to Suji. Prail was curious about everything human. She wanted to know about music, art, food, and games. Suji taught her Korean songs, and Prail taught Suji how Valve children played with light patterns, creating stories in the air with their bioluminescence. Why do humans not glow? Prail asked one day. Her translator made her voice sound like a small bell. Suji laughed. We just don't. But we have other ways to communicate. We use our faces, our voices, our hands. See? She made different expressions, showing happy, sad, angry, and surprised. Prail tried to copy them, and both of them ended up giggling. Not all interactions were so peaceful. Captain Dae-hyun commanded the security force around the facility. Every day brought new challenges. Protesters gathered at the gates, shouting and holding signs. Some signs said, "Aliens go home" and "Korea for Koreans." Others were worse, threatening violence. Dae-hyun had to keep his soldiers calm and the protesters at bay without letting things turn violent. One morning, a group tried to break through the fence. They had tools and weapons, determined to remove the alien threat themselves. Dae-hyun and his team stopped them, but it was close. 3 soldiers were injured and 2 protesters were arrested. That night, Dae-hyun sat in his office, exhausted. His wife, Mireille, a doctor working at a nearby hospital, brought him dinner. "You look terrible," she said softly. "I feel terrible," Dae-hyun admitted. "Half the country wants to protect these people. The other half wants them gone. And I'm stuck in the middle, trying to stop everyone from killing each other." Mireille sat beside him. "You're doing the right thing. That's what matters, is it? What if they do bring war here? What if helping them gets people killed?" "Then we face it," Mireille said firmly. "What's the alternative? Throw them back into space to die? We're better than that. We have to be." Meanwhile, an unexpected friendship was forming in the local fishing village. An old fisherman named Jinwoo had lost his boat in the same storm that brought the Valth. He was bitter about it, blaming the aliens for his bad luck even though it made no sense. But one day, Valth engineers approached him. Through Tilren, they offered to help repair his boat. Jinwoo was suspicious. "Why would you help me? I've said terrible things about you people." Tilren's colors shifted to warm orange, which meant understanding. "Because you are hurting and we can help. It is what neighbors do." The Valth used their bioadhesive technology, a substance that hardened like steel but grew naturally from their organic machines. They repaired Jinwoo's boat in 3 days, making it stronger than before. Jinwoo stood on his restored deck, tears in his eyes. "I was wrong about you," he said quietly. "I'm sorry." From that day on, Jinwoo became one of the Valth's most vocal defenders in the village. He told everyone who would listen about their kindness and skill. Slowly, opinions began to shift. Some people who were afraid started to see the Valth as individuals, not threats, but the peace couldn't last forever. 6 weeks after the Valth arrived, satellites detected something entering the solar system. 3 objects, massive and moving too deliberately to be asteroids. They were ships. The analysis came back quickly, cross-referenced with the data from the Valth vessel, Kreeth design. Kreeth engines? Kreeth weapons. Tilren was called to an emergency meeting with President Yuna and the military leadership. His colors showed no variation. Pure white terror. "They found us," he whispered. "The Kreeth are here." General Minho, head of South Korea's armed forces, pulled up the projections. "They'll reach Earth in approximately 4 weeks. What can you tell us about their capabilities?" Tilren seemed to age in that moment. "Each ship can destroy a continent. Their weapons use directed energy that boils oceans and cracks planets. Their armor cannot be penetrated by conventional weapons. And they do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They come for us, but they will go through anyone who stands in their way." President Yuna's face was calm, but her hands gripped the table edge. "Then we have 4 weeks to prepare for war. 4 weeks to find a way to stop them. You should surrender us," Tilren said softly. "Give us to them. Perhaps they will leave your world alone." Yuna stood up, her voice firm. "That's not going to happen. We gave you sanctuary and we meant it. If the Kreeth want you, they'll have to go through us." That night, Hana stood with Orinth in one of the biodomes, looking up at the stars. "Are you afraid?" she asked. Orinth's colors swirled with complex patterns. "Fear, yes, but also something else. Hope." "I am terrified," he he admitted. But I am also amazed. Your species could give us up. It would be the logical choice. Save yourselves. But you won't? You will fight for us, people you barely know? Why? Hannah thought about it for a long moment. Because it's right. And because if we won't stand up for others, we're not worth saving either. Orinth reached out and gently touched her shoulder. His hand glowed soft green. Then perhaps there is hope after all. Not just for us, but for this galaxy. If beings like you exist, maybe there is a chance for all of us. The world changed overnight. News of the approaching Kreeth ships spread across every nation. Some people panicked and tried to flee to remote areas. Others demanded their governments take action. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders spoke of the end times. Scientists appeared on television trying to explain what humanity was facing. None of them had good news. In a bunker beneath Seoul, military leaders from around the world gathered. General Minho stood at the head of the table, exhausted but determined. Holographic displays showed the 3 Kreeth warships. Now just 3 weeks away from Earth, each ship was over 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons humanity could barely identify. Let me be clear, Minho said, his voice steady. We cannot win this fight with conventional warfare. Our missiles, our bombs, our bullets, they're all useless against Kreeth armor. We've run every simulation. Every single one ends with Earth's destruction. An American general slammed his fist on the table. Then what do you propose? We can't just surrender. If we give them the Valve, what's to stop them from coming back later? We've revealed ourselves. We're a threat now just by knowing they exist? A Chinese officer nodded. He's right. Surrender buys us nothing. If we're going to die anyway, we should die fighting. Tiemann, the scientist, stepped forward with Orinth beside him. We might have one chance, Tiemann said. The Valve have been studying Kreeth technology for generations. They know things, weaknesses. Orinth's colors pulsed with nervous yellow. The Kreeth are arrogant, he explained through the translator. They believe their armor and shields make them invincible, and they are mostly correct. But their ships rely on centralized power cores. 1 core per ship. If you could disable or destroy that core, the entire vessel would fail. How do we reach it? Asked the Japanese admiral. If we can't penetrate their armor, how do we get to the core? This time Suji spoke up. She had been working non-stop with the Valve engineers, barely sleeping. Her eyes were red with exhaustion but bright with determination. Electromagnetic pulse, she said. A massive EMP burst could temporarily disable their shields. It won't last long, maybe 30 seconds. But in that window, conventional weapons could reach the power core. EMP weapons exist, Minho said slowly. But nothing powerful enough to affect something that size from a safe distance. Suji nodded. That's why we need to deliver it at close range. Very close range. Inside their defensive perimeter. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. It would be a suicide mission. The ships carrying the EMP weapons would have to get within meters of the Kreeth vessels with no chance of escape. President Yuna, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. How many ships would we need? 1 for each Kreeth vessel, Suji answered. 3 total? With backup, maybe 6 or 7, in case some are destroyed before they reach their targets. And we have 3 weeks to build these weapons and train pilots to deliver them, Yuna said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of what had to be done. The next 20 days were the most intense in human history. Factories that made cars started making ship components. Scientists who studied medicine switched to studying alien technology. Engineers worked around the clock, literally sleeping in their labs. The Valve helped with everything they could. Sharing knowledge they had spent years gathering, Orinth and Tiemann became an inseparable team. They designed the EMP weapons together, combining human nuclear technology with Valve understanding of Kreeth systems. The devices were ugly, cobbled-together things, but they would work, probably, maybe. There was no time for proper testing. Meanwhile, Dae-Hyung was training pilots. He had volunteered to lead the first strike team himself. Myray had cried when he told her, but she didn't try to stop him. She knew him too well. This was who he was. A protector. Someone who stood between the innocent and danger. 12 pilots total volunteered for the mission. They knew the odds. Dae-Hyun looked at each of them during the first training session. "No one will think less of you if you back out," he said. "This is a one-way trip. We all know it." A young pilot named Hae-jin raised her hand. "Sir, with respect, we're not here because we think we'll survive. We're here because someone has to do this. And we're not going to let the Kreeth burn our world without a fight." The others nodded in agreement. Another pilot, Sang-woo, added, "Besides, if we pull this off, we'll be the biggest heroes in history. If we don't, well, at least we won't be around to hear the complaints." Dark humor, but it helped. They trained in retrofitted fighter jets, modified to operate in space with Valve technology. The ships were clumsy, held together with hope and welding. But they were fast, and they could carry the EMP weapons. Across the world, other preparations were underway. Every military on Earth mobilized. Missiles were armed. Satellites were repositioned. Bunkers were stocked with supplies. Cities built shelters. It wasn't enough. Everyone knew it wasn't enough. But humanity prepared anyway, because giving up wasn't an option. Hannah spent her time helping evacuate coastal cities. The Valve had warned that if the Kreeth attacked, they would target population centers near the oceans first. Millions of people had to be moved inland. It was chaos, but people helped each other. Strangers shared food, shelter, and vehicles. In the face of extinction, old hatred seemed pointless. One evening, Hana found Prail crying in the biodome. The young Valve's colors were flickering between dark blue and black, the colors of deep sadness. Suji was with her, trying to comfort her. "What's wrong?" Hana asked gently. Prail looked up with her large, luminous eyes. "This is our fault," she said through the translator. "Your world was peaceful. Now it's going to be destroyed because of us. Because we came here." Sugi knelt down beside her. "No," she said firmly. "This is the Kreeth's fault. They're the ones who hunt you. They're the ones bringing war. You didn't do anything wrong. But if we had never crashed here, then we would never have known about you," Hannah interrupted. "We would never have known about the galaxy, about the Kreeth, about any of it. Yes, you brought danger, but you also brought knowledge. And friendship. And a reason to be better than we were." Prail's colors slowly shifted back to lighter shades. "Do you really think your people can win?" Hannah and Suji exchanged glances. Neither wanted to lie. "I don't know," Hannah admitted. "The odds aren't good. But humans are stubborn. We don't give up easily. And we're not alone anymore. We have you. We have your knowledge. Maybe that's enough." On the final day before the Kreeth arrived, Tilren called a gathering of all the Valth and any humans who wanted to attend. Hundreds came. The biodome was packed. Tilren stood at the center, his colors bright with every emotion at once. "We are the Valth," he began. "For generations we have run. We have hidden. We have watched our people die while the galaxy looked away. But here, on this world, we found something we thought was gone from the universe. We found courage that wasn't our own. We found beings who would stand for others even at the cost of everything." He turned to face President Yuna, General Minho, and the gathered humans. "Whatever happens tomorrow, know this. You have already won. You have proven that kindness exists. That honor exists. That some beings in this dark galaxy still believe in protecting the weak. The Kreeth can destroy ships and planets, but they cannot destroy what you have shown us. Hope." Dae-Hyun stood with his fellow pilots, feeling the weight of the moment. Tomorrow they would fly into almost certain death. Tomorrow the Kreeth would arrive. Tomorrow would decide whether Earth survived or burned. But tonight, in this moment, humans and Valve stood together. Different species, different worlds, but united by something simple and powerful. The belief that some things were worth fighting for. That some stands had to be taken, regardless of the cost. Myray found Dae-Hyun after the gathering. She held him tight, not saying anything. Words weren't necessary. They stood together, looking up at the stars, waiting for the dawn and whatever it would bring. The Kreeth warships appeared at dawn, tearing through space above the Pacific Ocean. They were enormous, black as the void between stars, covered in angular armor that seemed to absorb light. On every screen across the world, people watched as the three vessels took position in high orbit. For several minutes, nothing happened. The silence was worse than any sound. Then a transmission came. The voice was mechanical, cold, without any emotion that humans could recognize. "This is Warlord Thexus of the Kreeth Empire. You harbor our property. Deliver the Valve to us within 1 rotation of your planet, or we will sterilize this world. This is your only warning." In the command bunker, President Yuna stepped forward to the broadcast station. Her hands were steady as she pressed the transmission button. Around the world, billions heard her response. "This is President Yuna of Earth. The beings you call property are refugees under our protection. If you want them, come and take them." Thexus's response was immediate. "So be it." The first Kreeth weapon fired at exactly 6:47 a.m. A beam of pure energy lanced down from the lead warship, striking the Pacific Ocean 300 kilometers from any land. The water didn't just boil. It exploded. A column of steam rose 20 kilometers into the sky. The shockwave that followed created a tsunami racing toward coastal cities at incredible speed, but Earth had prepared. Valve-enhanced shield generators, hastily constructed along every coastline, activated. Shimmering barriers of energy rose from the ocean floor, breaking the tsunami's force before it could reach land. The shields held barely. Several generators overloaded and exploded, but the cities survived. "Interesting," Thexus transmitted. "You have adapted our technology. It will not save you." The Kreeth ships spread out, taking positions over Asia, Europe, and the Americas. They began a systematic bombardment, targeting military bases and power plants. Earth's missiles launched in response, thousands of them, along with experimental energy weapons built with Valve help. Most were destroyed before reaching the Kreeth ships. Those that hit bounced harmlessly off the alien armor. General Minho watched the battle unfold from his command center, Orinth standing beside him. The displays showed losses mounting quickly. 24 fighter jets gone in the first minute. A naval carrier group annihilated. A Chinese military base reduced to glass and ash. "We're not even scratching them," Minho said through gritted teeth. "You need to get the EMP weapons close," Orinth reminded him, his colors pulsing with urgent red. "That is the only chance." Minho nodded and opened the command channel. "Strike Team Alpha, you are cleared for launch. Godspeed." Dae-Hyan sat in his cockpit, hearing the order through his helmet. His modified fighter jet, more spacecraft than airplane now, rumbled beneath him. Around him, 11 other pilots did their final checks. They were launching from a hidden facility in the mountains, hoping to stay under their Kreeth sensors as long as possible. "All units, this is Alpha Leader," Dae-Hyan said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Stay in formation. Don't deviate from the flight plan until we're within strike range. Our job is simple. Get these EMPs to the targets and detonate. Everything else is secondary, including our lives?" Haijin asked, her tone light despite the circumstances. "Especially our lives," Dae-Hyan replied. They launched together. 12 ships rising on pillars of flame and alien technology. The flight to orbit took 8 minutes. 8 minutes of watching Earth fall away beneath them. 8 minutes of seeing the Kreeth warships grow larger and more terrifying. 8 minutes to think about Myray, about home, about everything they were about to lose. The Kreeth detected them immediately. Of course they did. Defense systems activated across all 3 warships. Energy beams sliced through space, tracking the incoming fighters. The first pilot died within seconds. Her ship vaporized before she could even scream. Then another. Then 2 more. "Break formation," Dae-Hyan shouted. "Evasive maneuvers. Get to your targets." The remaining 8 fighters scattered, each team heading for its assigned Kreeth warship. Dae-Hyan led one team of 3 toward the largest vessel, Thexus's flagship. Behind them, Earth's military threw everything they had at the Kreeth, trying to provide cover. Missiles, railguns, laser arrays, everything. It was barely a distraction, but it was something. Sangwoo's fighter took a glancing hit that tore off his port wing. "I'm hit," he shouted. "Controls are failing. Can you stay on target?" Daehyun demanded. "Affirmative." "I'm not stopping now." They pushed forward, weaving through a storm of Kreeth fire. Another fighter exploded. Then another. 6 pilots left. 5. The flagship loomed ahead, massive and terrible. Daehyun could see the details now, the weapon ports glowing with charging energy, the scarred armor from 1,000 other battles. "Haijin, Sangwoo, with me," Daehyun ordered. "We're going in." They dove toward the Kreeth flagship, their ship screaming as they pushed past safe speeds. Alarms blared in Daehyun's cockpit. His shields were failing. His engines were overheating. None of it mattered. He just needed 10 more seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds, now? Daehyun shouted. All 3 fighters released their EMP weapons simultaneously. The devices looked crude, like barrels strapped to missiles, but they worked. They detonated in a synchronized burst, releasing electromagnetic pulses so powerful that Earth satellites registered them from thousands of kilometers away. The Kreeth flagship's shields flickered and died. For exactly 28 seconds, the mighty warship was vulnerable. 20-8 seconds was all Earth needed. Every weapon in range opened fire. Missiles that had bounced off the shields now tore into the hull. Railgun slugs punched through armor. Human submarines, positioned in the ocean below, launched everything they had upward. Even civilian aircraft, hastily armed with explosives, joined the attack, Daehyun's cockpit filled with alarms. His ship was dying, but he could see it. He could see weapons penetrating the Kreeth armor, reaching deep into the ship's interior. Reaching the power core, Haijin, Sangwoo? The explosion cut him off. The Kreeth flagship's power core detonated with the force of a small sun. The massive warship broke apart, pieces of it burning as they fell toward Earth's atmosphere. The shockwave sent Daehyun's fighter spinning out of control. "Eject!" Someone screamed over the radio. Maybe Haijin. Maybe Minho from the command center. Daehyun couldn't tell. He reached for the ejection handle and pulled. Above Europe, a similar scene played out. 2 pilots managed to deliver their EMP payload before being destroyed. The second Kreeth warship's shields failed, and a coordinated strike from Russian and European forces crippled its power core. The ship didn't explode like the first one. Instead, it began falling, tumbling slowly toward the ground below. "All units, the second ship is going down," General Minho broadcasted. "Clear the impact zone." The Kreeth warship crashed in the Gobi Desert with the force of a meteor strike. The impact could be felt in Beijing, over 1,000 kilometers away. Dust and debris rose into a mushroom cloud that darkened the sky, but the third ship survived. Its crew had learned from watching the others die. When the remaining Earth fighters approached, the Kreeth warship deployed smaller attack craft, something they hadn't used before. Fast, deadly drones that swarmed the human ships. The last 2 pilots died trying to reach their target. Their EMP weapons detonated too far away, accomplishing nothing. The third Kreeth warship remained operational, and it was furious. Thexus himself took control. "You have destroyed 2 of my ships," he transmitted. "Impressive for primitives, but inadequate. Now you will see what it means to anger the Kreeth." The warship's main cannon began charging. Intelligence suggested it was a planet-killer weapon, capable of cracking Earth's crust and triggering volcanic eruptions across the globe. It would take 5 minutes to fully charge. 5 minutes until the end of everything. In the command bunker, Minho stared at the screens in desperation. They had thrown everything at the last ship. Nothing worked. Orion's colors were pure black, the color of mourning. "I am sorry," the Valth whispered. "We brought this doom to you." "No," Minho said firmly. "We chose this, and we're not done yet." He opened a channel to what remained of Earth's military. "All units, target the third warship's weapon array. Every gun, Every missile, everything we have left. We don't need to destroy it. We just need to buy time. Time for what? An American officer asked. For someone to get lucky, Minho replied, across the planet. Every functional weapon system turned toward the last Kreeth warship. Thousands of missiles launched. Railguns fired until their barrels melted. Laser arrays poured energy into the void. It was desperate, chaotic, and uncoordinated. But it was also relentless. The Kreeth warship's shields held, but they couldn't ignore the assault. Thexes had to divert power from the main cannon to reinforce the shields. The charge time extended. 7 minutes now. Then 8. In the ocean below, a South Korean submarine captain named Borum saw an opportunity. The Kreeth ship had lowered its position, focusing its defenses upward. Borum ordered her submarine to surface directly beneath the warship. Load every weapon we have, she ordered. Everything. We're going to fire it all at once. Her crew looked at her with understanding. This was a suicide run. The submarine's position would be exposed. The Kreeth would destroy them. But maybe, just maybe, they could do some damage first. For Earth, Borum said quietly. The silence after the battle was deafening. Across the world, people stood still, staring at screens or at the sky, unable to process what had just happened. The Kreeth were gone. All 3 warships destroyed or disabled. Earth had survived, then the celebrations began. In cities and villages, in bunkers and shelters, people cried and laughed and held each other. Strangers embraced on streets. Church bells rang. Fireworks launched into the sky. Humanity had faced extinction and somehow, impossibly, survived, but the cost had been terrible. 40,000 people were dead. Entire military bases had been erased. Cities bore scars from near-miss strikes. The ocean was contaminated with debris from destroyed ships. And 12 pilots had sacrificed everything to give Earth a chance. Daehyun woke up 3 days after the battle in a hospital bed. His ejection pod had been recovered by a Japanese destroyer. He had broken ribs, a concussion, and burns across his arms, but he was alive. Mireille sat beside his bed, her eyes red from crying. The others? Daehyun asked, his voice hoarse. Mireille's face told him everything before she spoke. Haejin and Sangwoo didn't make it. Their pods were destroyed before they could eject. Out of 12 pilots, you're one of only 3 survivors. Daehyun closed his eyes. He had known the odds. They all had. But knowing didn't make it hurt less. They were heroes, he whispered. So are you, Mireille said, taking his hand. The whole world knows what you did. What all of you did. Recovery was slow for more than just Daehyun. The world had been shaken to its core. But humans were resilient. Rebuilding began immediately. And this time they had help. The Valth, grateful beyond words, shared everything they knew. Their medical technology helped heal the wounded faster. Their environmental systems cleaned radiation and pollution. Their engineering knowledge helped rebuild destroyed infrastructure better than before Hana, and Orinth continued their work together, now focused on restoration rather than war. They published research on Valth agricultural techniques that could revolutionize farming. Their methods used less water, less space, and produced higher yields. Food scarcity, a problem that had plagued humanity for centuries, suddenly had a solution. This could end hunger, Timan said, reading their research with amazement. Not eventually. Within a decade. Sugi received the Nobel Prize 6 months after the battle. She tried to refuse it, saying she had only done what needed to be done. But President Yuna convinced her to accept it. You need to be a symbol, Yuna explained. A reminder that humans and Valth together can accomplish miracles. At the ceremony in Stockholm, Sugi brought Prail as her guest. The young Valth stood on stage, her colors glowing with pride and joy, as Sugi gave her acceptance speech. This prize isn't mine alone, Sugi said. It belongs to every human in Valth who worked together. It belongs to the pilots who gave their lives. It belongs to everyone who chose hope over fear. The integration of Valth into Earth society happened faster than anyone expected. The initial facility on Jeju Island expanded into a full city. jointly governed by humans and Valth. Other Valth communities appeared in coastal areas worldwide. There were challenges, of course. Cultural misunderstandings, economic adjustments. Some humans still feared or resented the aliens. But most people saw the Valth as what they truly were, refugees who had become neighbors. Jinwoo, the old fisherman, opened a restaurant combining Korean seafood with Valth cuisine. It became incredibly popular. Valth bioluminescent seasoning created flavors humans had never experienced. Human spices and cooking techniques fascinated the Valth. The fusion of two food cultures became a symbol of harmony. Who knew the key to peace was good food? Jinwoo joked, serving a mixed group of human and Valth customers, but the battle had attracted attention beyond Earth. 3 months after the Kreeth's defeat, a new ship appeared in orbit. This one didn't attack. Instead, it sent a message requesting permission to approach. It was from the Pelthini Collective, a democratic alliance of species that opposed Kreeth expansion. Ambassador Jiwoo, now Earth's official representative for extraterrestrial relations, met with the Pelthine delegates. They were tall beings with crystalline skin that refracted light in beautiful patterns. Their leader, a being who introduced herself as Crystalline Speaker, bowed deeply to Jiwoo. "We have watched your world for many cycles," Crystalline Speaker said through her translator. "We saw refugees crash on your shores. We expected you to turn them away as most primitive species do. Instead, you protected them. Then the Kreeth came, and we expected your world to burn. Instead, you defeated them." "We got lucky," Jiwoo said honestly. "No," Crystalline Speaker replied. "Luck does not account for courage. Luck does not explain sacrifice. Your species stood against impossible odds for beings you barely knew. That is not luck. That is character." The Pelthine offered Earth membership in their alliance, trade agreements, technology exchange, protection from other aggressive species. It was everything Earth needed to step onto the galactic stage. Tilren, standing beside Jiwoo, glowed with colors of gratitude and pride. "I told you," Tilren said softly. "I told you that your people would change things." Earth's entrance into galactic politics was rocky. Some species saw humans as dangerous upstarts. Others were curious about the primitives who had defeated the Kreeth. A few tried to take advantage of Earth's inexperience. But humans learned fast, and they had good teachers. The Valth helped navigate the complex web of interstellar diplomacy. 1 year after the battle, a monument was unveiled on Jeju Island. It stood on the beach where the Valth had first crashed. The sculpture showed a Korean soldier and a Valth standing side by side, both facing outward toward the sky. The inscription was written in Korean, English, and Valth script. "When doom came for the innocent, Terrans stood between. This is our promise to the galaxy, sanctuary for the persecuted, defiance against oppression." The ceremony was attended by thousands. President Yuna gave a speech that was broadcast across Earth and to listening posts throughout the Pelthine Collective. "1 year ago, we were alone in the universe," she said. "We thought ourselves isolated and safe. Then strangers fell from the sky, bringing danger with them. We could have turned away. It would have been easier, safer, but we made a choice. We chose to stand for what was right, regardless of the cost." She paused, looking at the mixed crowd of humans and Valth. "Today we are not alone. We have new friends, new allies, new family. We have stepped into a larger universe, one full of both wonder and danger. But we step into it knowing who we are. We are Terrans. We are beings who stand between the innocent and doom. And we always will be." Dae-Hyan attended the ceremony, still recovering from his injuries but able to walk now. He stood at attention as the names of the fallen pilots were read aloud. 12 names. 12 heroes. When his name was called as one of the survivors, the crowd erupted in applause. He felt uncomfortable with the attention but accepted it with dignity. After the ceremony, he found Tilren standing alone near the shore, looking out at the waves. "I come here often," Tilren said. "This is where we began, where we fell from the sky, broken and desperate. I think about that day frequently. Do you regret coming here?" Dae-Hyan asked. Tilran's colors shifted through a complex pattern. Sadness, joy, gratitude, hope, all mixed together. We brought war to your world. We caused death and destruction. How could I not feel regret for that? But, Daehyun prompted, but you gave us something we had lost. You gave us proof that goodness exists in the universe. That courage and compassion are not just stories. For that, I cannot regret our meeting despite the cost. Daehyun nodded. We learned something too. We learned that we're not alone. That there are others out there, suffering and struggling. And we learned that we have a responsibility to them. Just like we have a responsibility to each other. In the city, Suji taught at a new school, the first institution designed for both human and Valth children. She watched her students play together during recess, mixing naturally without the fears and prejudices of the older generations. Prael was there, laughing with her friends, her bioluminescence creating playful patterns in the air. Teacher Suji, Prael called out. Watch this. She and a human boy had created a game combining light patterns and hand signals. A fusion of both species' communication styles, Suji smiled. This was the future. Not perfect, still full of challenges but hopeful. A future where human and Valth children played together, learned together, grew together. A future where the differences between species made them stronger, not weaker. That evening, Hana and Orinth presented their latest research to the United Nations. They had developed a system to clean the world's oceans, removing plastic and toxins using Valth biofilters. The technology was ready for global deployment. Within 10 years, Earth's oceans could be pristine again. This is the fourth major breakthrough this year, the UN Secretary-General noted. The Valth presence has accelerated our technological development by decades. It is mutual, Orinth replied, his colors warm and bright. Human creativity and determination inspire us. We were running and hiding for so long that we forgot how to hope. You reminded us. Late that night, Mireille and Daehyun stood on their apartment balcony, looking up at the stars. They could see ships in orbit now, both human and alien. Trade vessels. Science missions.